In order to win an NBA championship, it takes a complete team effort. Of course, you have your star players out there, the Kawhis, the LeBrons, but it's going to take a complete team effort in order to get over the hump. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal, he always calls them the other guys, but some of them have a bigger impact than others. What's going on, guys? SMH Super Mario Hoops back with some more hoops. And today I'm going to discuss my top 5 X factors for certain contending teams that really need to step it up. And we're going to start off, the first one from the LA Clippers is Lou Williams. Now, Lou Williams, he has been playing a lot better recently. He's currently about on his average in terms of efficiency, but his shot volume has gone down a lot. And there is good reason to that. Of course, Luke Kennard's playing well. Marcus Morris, he's coming back into the rotation. But Lou Williams is supposed to be the third option on this team, and he was really a big reason why people had the Clippers favorited last year. I mean, of course, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George is really good on your team, but I think the thing that separated them from the Lakers in most people's mind last season is the fact that they had a guy like Lou Williams off the bench and also Montrezl Harrell, but Lou Williams was the third go-to guy. And when they made the playoffs in 2019 as an 8 seed and challenged the Warriors to 6 games, I mean, he was on fire. He was playing like an all-star before Kawhi and Paul George even got there. So we need that Lou Williams. We need sweet Lou back if these Clippers want to make a serious run at the championship. Because right now, it seemed like to start the year, he had so many games where he wasn't even scoring 10 points. Right now, his point per game average is the lowest it's been in like 12 or 13 seasons. That's just not typical for Lou Williams. We know he's a pure scorer. They literally call him the underground GOAT because, he's one of the best scorers off the bench. He comes off the bench, provides more scoring than anyone ever has in NBA history, and I expect him to keep doing it for several more years. So Lou Williams definitely has to keep it up. He did drop a 30-point bomb the other day, and he's been playing pretty well even in the absence of Kawhi and Paul George. So I got to give him that. But when it comes to playoff time, he definitely needs to step it up. Last year's playoffs, it wasn't a good look for him. Our second X factor that we're going to talk about is Kristaps Porzingis. Now, Porzingis, he's averaging over 20 points per game for the third season in a row. Of course, he missed the full season in 2018-2019. So ever since 2017, he's been over 20 points per game. His rebounds per game is still about, where it should be. His efficiency has actually been pretty decent this year. But the thing that's really bothering most Mavericks fans is I think his defensive effort. His defense just doesn't seem like it's where it was last season. And last year, you got to think, they were historically and statistically the best offensive team ever last year. But of course, their defense was still a problem. Now they added guys like Josh Richardson. They added, some other guy like James Johnson. And they still aren't really finding out how to work things around defensively. He hasn't really improved too much as opposed to, his all-star season with the Knicks back in 2018. He's still a very solid player, but I think if they want to be a contender, he needs to step it up. I mean, Luka Doncic right now, he's, most would say probably a top 10 or just right outside the top 10 players in the NBA currently. And Kristaps Porzingis, he's not going to be an all-star. He's probably not even a top 30 player in the NBA. And I think a lot of it falls on him, especially when there's no third star on that team. Of course, Tim Hardaway Jr., he's very good. Dorian Finney-Smith has had his moments. Josh Richardson as well. But I think Kristaps Porzingis needs to be the star that we all thought he would be in that all-star season with the Knicks. If he can turn into that with the Mavericks, then I think that they have a pretty good shot at contending with some of these other top teams like the LA teams, the Jazz, Portland, Denver, and so on. The third one that we have to talk about, and probably the most notable one right now, is Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker is averaging his least amount of points per game since his rookie season, which is just insane. And also, his field goal percentage is even worse than that. It's even worse than his rookie year. I don't know what is going on with Kemba Walker. He did have the injury, of course. I mean, last year he was averaging over 20 a game, and that was with a healthy Gordon Hayward for most of the year. That was with Marcus Smart playing most of the games. But Marcus Smart has been out of the rotation for some time now, and, for his injury. And then also Gordon Hayward is not in Boston anymore. So I don't know what is up with Kemba Walker right now, but it just doesn't look like the usual all-star point guard that we know. And with the Celtics this year, their depth is a huge problem. Tatum has been playing like an all-star per usual. Jaylen Brown is probably en route to make his first all-star game this season. But outside of that, the Celtics have a lot of missing pieces. And Brad Stevens, in my opinion, he has a lot to prove this year. He's been there. This is his 8th season now, and he really hasn't been able to get over the hump with that squad. He's exceeded sometimes when they weren't supposed to do anything, and then he's, underachieved in years where they were supposed to be great. So I think this year, if Kemba Walker can get back to his former self, along with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum playing at this level, that's 3 20-point-per-game scorers, probably one of the best, 1, 2, 3 combos in the league. So, it all relies on Kemba Walker. Is he going to be the guy that we saw in Charlotte, or at least somewhere near that level of player, or is he going to be, an inconsistent point guard that might even get traded if he keeps playing like this? The fourth one that we will be talking about probably has the least amount of impact as some of these other guys. He's not really an all-star caliber player, but it's Robert Covington. Now, Robert Covington, he's still playing his usual about 30 minutes a game. He's actually a little bit over his career average this year, but his points per game is very bad. Right now, it's the second lowest of his career, even though he's getting a decent amount of looks. He's taking over 5 threes a game. He's only shooting 32%, which is below his average. He's shooting 36% from the field, which is well below his average and actually his career low right now. Especially with the TrailBlazers injuries to CJ McCollum, to Yusuf Nurkic, Zach Collins, Nasir Little, you'd expect Robert Covington to step it up. Even Derrick Jones Jr. has missed some games. But Robert Covington, they signed him because he was the 3 and D guy that they could add to their squad. And in the years where they were competitive, like when they had Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless, those guys were great defensively, but offensively, they weren't really able to provide much, especially in terms of floor spacing. But that's one of the big things they thought they were getting with Robert Covington. Last year in the playoffs, he was shooting pretty well. Let me remind you, he was shooting 50% from 3 on about 6 attempts a game, and shot about 50% from the field as well. But he's also one of the top 10 players in deflections last season in the league, as was Derrick Jones Jr. So on the defensive end, it seems like he's still contributing at a high level because obviously Portland, they've been decimated with injuries all year long, but they're still finding their way in the middle of the playoff picture. They just got to bring it on the offensive end if they want to be successful. Dame can't be doing everything. And then once CJ comes back, can't be just those guys. Gary Trent Jr.'s played good, but they need Robert Covington to step up if they want to get to the next level. And the last guy we're going to be talking about, probably the one that's most talked about in recent history, and that is Ben Simmons. Now, Ben Simmons, statistically, is probably one of the harder players to gauge because his impact goes deeper than the stat sheet. But just in terms of his stats, he's pretty much been consistent through 4 years. But that's not really a great thing because there isn't really any improvement there. I saw a tweet today about how the 76ers, Ben Simmons has been improving over and over again and that he should be an all-star. But he's probably not going to be an all-star this year the way he's been playing. Personally, I would not vote him in. I would vote Embiid, but I would not vote Ben Simmons. But it's not just the fact that he can't shoot a 3. It's not the fact that, he's not putting up the crazy numbers. The thing that does it for me is that he needs to find a way to be effective around Joel Embiid because the way the season's been going, Embiid's probably the MVP favorite, and Ben Simmons needs to find a way to play around him that benefits the team. The team can honestly play better sometimes without Ben and with Joel, which shouldn't be the case. Ben Simmons should be an all-star and even a superstar talent. Just the other day, he dropped 42 points, and I said multiple times on Twitter that he is a top 10 player in the league if he's fully aggressive, throughout the game. And that's probably a top 3 point guard as well. So Ben Simmons, he needs to be more aggressive, and he needs to find a way to contribute that is not, if it's not going to be his 3-point shot, it's got to be something. Otherwise, I don't know how this is going to work out in the future with him playing alongside Embiid, and they might look to ship Ben Simmons for someone that can shoot, maybe like a Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine. And I know his passing is great, but when I mean do something, I'm talking about like live up to your own claim of being the best defender in the league, whether it's, 7-foot Kevin Durant or 6-foot Kyrie Irving. Be a great off-ball player or something like that. Like, improve in that aspect, in the sense where it's like you can make cuts to the basket. Not something that is going to benefit Ben and bring him to the next level, but then brings down guys like Embiid or Tobias Harris, because you don't want to mess up the flow of the team right now. It's built around Embiid, and that's how it's supposed to be. Something that can help maximize Joel, but also, bring out a good part of Ben Simmons in the sense where this team's almost unstoppable. But guys, I hope you all enjoyed this little video. I just thought I'd talk about some of these players because they haven't really been having the greatest season all around. Of course, guys like Lou Williams and Kristaps Porzingis, they're starting to pick it up a little bit, but they still need to be, consistent when it comes to playoff time. But all 5 of these guys need to definitely step it up if they want a chance to compete with some of the other contenders I didn't name, like the Utah Jazz, who have been the best record in basketball, the reigning champions, the LA Lakers. Of course, Denver's still in the mix. You even got the Bucks, the Nets. So it's going to be loaded and a lot of contenders this year. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I think that's going to do it for me. I'm out. Peace.